Our topic for this tonight, no, Sinchi Wu na ba? Yeah, Sinchi Wu is supply chain management or 供应链管理. So our quotation of the day or night is delivery from Demosthenes, Greek orator and salesman. So supply chain is very important for the business. You cannot sell their products if you do not have your supply chain. So supply chain definition. So I'll just be correcting a little some of the errors. So it refers to all activities involved supplying an end user with a product or service. Let's say I'll return to the Mai Tang Lao comparison. You want a hamburger, han pao, then they will have to provide you with that. But what is the process involved in order for you to get the han pao or any food that you are ordering in the restaurant? Restaurant, 菜馆. Kaso ano siya, Mandarin. Ay ano, giwe. We'll translate. Okay. Okay, chanting. Okay. So restaurant. So supply chain is the lifeblood of any business organization because most if not all of the businesses sell products or services. So a business must connect suppliers, producers, and of course the customers or consumers, KOHU, in a network that is essential to the creation and delivery of goods and services. So the business must provide the product and services which they will get from the suppliers. So I'm just giving you time to read. Okay. So that is the definition of supply chain. So the supply chain must not be cut. If there is a problem with the or business and the supplier or even the customer, you cannot be able to provide or sell your products and services. So for the sequence of organizations in the supply chain, you must have the facilities and functions and activities for the supply chain. Okay. So for facilities, we have the warehouses. This is where you will place your items, the factories, if you're manufacturing it, processing centers, 加工中心, distribution centers. Nawala yung kodi ko. Okay, there you go. The retail outlets, 零售网点, and the offices, 办公室. And then for the functions in the supply chain, you have the we discussed yesterday, again wrong translation, forecasting, purchasing. You are buying the product or service, the items from your supplier. Inventory management, information management, 金线管理. Quality assurance, scheduling, 周度, if I'm not wrong, and then the production. Okay. Distribution. 分配 delivery. So 叫货 and customer service 客服服务. So these are interrelated parts of the supply chain, especially forecasting. Our topic yesterday, last night, you have to make the forecast for you to implement the supply chain. So definition of supply chain management, we will just call it SCM. It's much faster. So supply chain management is the strategic coordination of business function within a business organization. So business function within a business organization. Okay. There you go. So there you go. And throughout its supply chain for the purpose of integrating the supply and demand. As you can see, you have the supply and demand. We will have this subject on the next few modules on a different teacher, but we're just focusing on how you will be able to continue to have the supply of items or inventory. So this is a translation. So importance of SCM. So SCM plays an important role in the organization's competitiveness. If your supply chain or your SCM is not that good, then let's say Huawei is the top company in China, then another competitor will eclipse or overtake Apple. Let's say a different brand like Oppo, Vivo. Its supply chain practices ensure a stable supply of its highly demanded products, which in turn leads to satisfied customers. Again, if you have an excellent supply chain, then the customers will be satisfied, because if you cannot provide the supply, then what will the customer react? Let's say Devin will order in McDonald's a hamburger or hanpao, then McDonald's says, we do not have hamburger anymore. We cannot sell. We have no items available. You will be upset because you're already hungry, and there's no food. So you have to go to another store, which will earn profits. So you're already hungry by that time and no food. Another importance of supply chain management or SCM is that it can be used not only for manufacturing. Usually when you think of supply chain, it's just for manufacturing or distribution of goods or products. But even service organizations can use supply chain management, because even the service, as we discussed 2 days ago, also use inventory. There you go. Okay, there you go. So services use supplies and facilitating goods in the delivery of their service, but they also outsource many of their internal functions, such as information technology or IT, accounting, and human resources management or HR, just like manufacturers do. So that's why you can use SCM for these services. Rather than build your own infrastructure, you can just outsource them. Outsource. wipeout. So here. And another importance of SCM or supply chain management is the goal of supply chain management is to match supply to demand. So this word, supply to demand, matching of supply and demand as effectively and efficiently as possible. So key aspects relate to, I forgot to change this one, determining the appropriate level of outsourcing, managing procurement, suppliers, and customer relationships. So again, a key feature of SCM is that you must have great communication within different people and departments, and being able to quickly identify the problems and respond to them. Of course, the business always faces its own sets of challenges every day. So we as managers or employees must find solutions to solve these problems. We should not be able to just let it go, the problems. Okay. So the role of supply chain managers. The supply chain managers are people at various levels of the organization. So who are responsible for managing both the supply and demand within and across business organizations. Next. So supply chain managers are involved with planning and coordinating activities. So planning and coordinating that include sourcing, and procurement of materials. So sourcing 是采购，采购，采购。采购。Okay. Materials and services, transformation activities, and logistics. So transformation is in the manufacturing, converting raw materials to finished goods and delivering these items within the warehouse and even delivering it to the shipping point. So supply chain also has three types of flow management. I'm not sure if the flow management definition 有量 is correct. 管理的三者. Okay. So you have the flow management, and then there are three types: the product and service flow, information flow, and the financial flow. So product and service, information, and financial. Ayaw pakita. Okay. So product and service flow involves the movement of goods or services from suppliers to customers. So suppliers to customers. Okay, so that's it. Ayaw gumana yung... Okay. So as well as handling customer service needs. So if let's say the customer has a complaint, so they are also in charge of the product and service flow. Okay. Next, for the information flow, involves sharing forecasts. Again, remember the forecast and sales data. So forecast is the planning and sales data is the result of the operations. Transmitting orders, tracking shipments, and updating order status. And last but not the least, the financial flow involves credit terms, payments, and consignment. For the Chinese translation, okay. And then for the information overflow, and the financial flow. So, okay, so there you go. So this topic is a little long, but I hope we can finish within 1.5 hours. I know some of you are already trying to relax or eat with your family, or going out. So typical supply chains. So I'll just show you what the typical supply chain for this one is for manufacturing looks like. So you have usually in practice you have 3 suppliers. You can push up to 5, but I prefer 3. Even I use 3 suppliers. And then once the item arrives, you have the storage. So I will just include the translation later. Storage, manufacturing. Once it's manufactured, you will have to store it again. That means it's already finished goods. And then transport it again. So this one, you see the arrow, transportation. Yunshu. Yunshu. Okay. So that one is the transportation, the red arrow. And then after the storage, it must be distributed. Let's say you're making, you're manufacturing milk. So you have to deliver it to the supermarket, the grocery. Let's say Tesco. I saw Tesco in China, that's why I use Tesco. And then the retailer, from distributor to retailer, and then it will arrive to the customer or co. So that's the usual supply chain for manufacturing. How about the service? For the service, it's a little simpler, but in process, but getting these items is a little more complicated. So they show 2 suppliers, but in practice, they usually use 3 suppliers or again, 5. It's all right. So these are your regular suppliers, and then you store the items. Once you store the items, the inventory, so it will be used to render the service. So let's say cement. We're not going to sell the cement. We're going to use the cement. So shui ni cement for constructing the house. And then once the service has been the service is then given to the customer or rendered to the customer. So these are the 2 types of supply chains of manufacturing and the service. This one is a little bit more complicated. So this is the flow of the goods. It's a little harder. So let's say suppliers, this one, for the goods, for the production of goods and services. Okay.
商品和服务的生产。
Okay, so ay, nangyari? You see the slide? Can you see the slide? Okay. Just tell me if you see the slide. Okay, so from suppliers, they go to the production, then logistics, customers, and then reverse logistics. So once the product or item has been served, then it's time for the payment, the cash flow. So accounting. This one is accounting. So they will charge each other. 产品人跟服务和现金流 Okay? So trends in supply chain management before the time limit. I'm sorry to finish it. So there are, okay, so let's just explain. So there are many different industries. So we're not working in the same industry. So some of you might be selling insurance. Some of you might be working in car sales. Some might be working in the office, schools, and many more. So different businesses vary widely in terms of where they are in the evolution of their supply chain. So each industry of the business has their own sets of supply chain management. So there you go. Okay. So if I'm not mistaken, there are 6. So I'll just show this 6 types, 2, 4, 6. So first is the supply chain ROI. So making a supply chain management system is a little bit expensive. So you have to compute how long it will take for the investment to return. A second is this one is a little bit more costly. It's the greening. I'm not sure if this is the correct word. I can see the green, but not sure about the second word. Okay, greening the supply chain. So we will explain these later. The next slide. So part 1, TE fun. So first, it's the measuring the supply chain ROI, greening the supply chain, and re-evaluating outsourcing. Okay. So measuring the ROI, it enables managers to incorporate economics. So economics is bakit naka-Arabic? Okay. 经济学,
经济学
Okay, so there you go. Into outsourcing and other decisions, giving them a rational basis for managing their supply chains. So I replaced my translator with a new one. So greening the supply chain, on the other hand, is generating interest. It's very common now. They're searching, is your supply chain excellent or green enough? Including corporate responsibility regulations. You have to follow the regulations, especially in China. The government has regulations. Every country has their own sets of regulations that you must follow. And public pressure. Your customers, consumers want you to follow to be more humane or you be more responsible company. And third is reevaluating outsourcing. So business organizations outsource for a variety of reasons such as lower prices resulting from labor costs, lower labor costs. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of manufacturing companies are in China right now because they decided to outsource the labor. Focus on core strengths, shifting some risk to supplier, and more. Part 2, we have the integrating IT, managing risks, and being agile. So integrating IT produces the data that you need.数据, okay, that can enhance strategic planning and help businesses to control the costs. It's important that the costs remain within the budget, measure quality and productivity, respond quickly to problems and improve the operations of the supply chain. So especially right now, IT has a very significant impact in the operations. Managing risks. So for some business, the supply chain is a major source of risk. Of course, uh, there's a lot of uncertainty when you're operating a business. So, 不确定性.
不确定性，
Okay. So managing risk. So it is essential to adopt procedures for managing risk, such as supplier production. So should there be any problem with the production, you should have other plans. Or quality issues, weather disruption, let's say a typhoon, or flooding, or fire, earthquake, changing demand. People no longer support your product or service. They prefer the competition, or no one's using your items because there's newer technologies. Transporting issues. So that's why supply chain is another important topic here. The transporting of the items and political issues. And last but not the least is being agile. So a supply chain must be flexible enough to be able to respond fairly quickly to unpredictable changes or circumstances. A lot of things can happen within 10 years. If you will remember my example, the Nokia. 从前有 Nokia, 现在 Nokia 在哪里？没有了。But now we have Huawei, we have Xiaomi, we have I'm not sure if you call it Oppo, but here we call it Oppo, the brand. A majority of the phones all over the world are made and produced in China. So if people are no longer going to be using mobile phones, let's say, for example, how will the organization supply chain adopt? That's another trend. So those are the trends, 6 trends, and then I'll show you the translated versions. Third one, outsourcing. Wipeout. Okay. This is part 2, TR 部分. This is just a translation of the English parts that I discussed. There you go. Okay. 40 minutes. So this is part 1 and part 2. Okay. Now, when you're doing the supply chain management or any operations, even on our daily lives, there is always the risk management. 风险管理 and resiliency. Can someone tell me what is risk management? So risk management involves identifying risks, assessing their likelihood of occurring, and their potential impact. So let's say you are going to work for a different company. So there's always the risk. What will be the chance that you will get promoted in that company? Just for an example. So the likelihood of occurring the risk and the impact. How big is the impact if you resign, leave your job, go to a new job? Will you get hired right away? So for the business, they also assess the impact of this risk and developing the strategies for addressing such risk. So there you go. Here's the explanation. So strategies can pertain to risk avoidance. So you're going to use the strategy in order to avoid the risk. But just because you are avoiding the risk doesn't mean the risk will no longer happen. It will always happen. So you're just trying to manage. That's why the term is 风险管理, not risk eradication. Let's say
消除风险，
you're not removing it, but you're just managing it. So resiliency is, on the other hand, the ability of a business to recover. So let's say last year we had 2020 we have the pandemic. So most companies are still recovering from the negative impacts. So resiliency and recovery is a function of the severity of the impact. Some businesses cannot recover, they just file for bankruptcy.
破产，
破产. So this is one of the problems. And the plans that are in place to cope with the event. So you must continue to operate despite the setbacks, the problems. Especially the airline industry, they must have the resiliency.
航空业，
So the airline industry was severely affected, but now they have to recover their losses. So this is the risk management process. So here are the steps. So we will start with the first one, the red one, which is identify risk. So you must know where are the risks. What is the risk? Then you have to measure the risk. How severe is the risk? Or the 风险, how severe is the 风险? So you must be able to know that. Third is examine what are the possible solutions. Okay, so that is the examine solutions, and then implement solution. And last but not the least is monitor the results. As you can see, it is very similar to the TQM, the Deming. Remember the plan, do, act, check. So this first one, the identify risk, the red one is the planning phase, and then the orange and the orange is the do, and then examine and the implement is act, and then last but not the least, the monitor for the check. Plan, do, act, check. Remember. Now, ERP or Enterprise Resource Planning and SCM. So they go hand in hand. They are partners.
合作伙伴，
So they are partners. So SCM that integrates ERP, so they are combining each other, is a formal approach to effectively plan and manage.
有效规划和管理，
Effectively plan and manage all the resources of the business enterprise. So part 1, ERP and SCM. So when you implement the ERP, implementation of ERP involves establishing operating systems and operating performance measurements to enable them to manage the business operations and meet the business and financial objectives. So second, ERP encompasses supply chain management activities such as planning for demand and managing supply, inventory replenishment, production, warehousing, and transportation. So they are interconnected. ERP. So this is the definition of ERP. So components of the ERP system. So this is the ERP system. And you have here the supplier relationship management. We will discuss them later on the next slide, but for now, I'll just show you the components. Second is the sales and order fulfillment. Another is the customer relationship management. So you have to have a relationship with your customer and supplier.
需要与客户和供应商建立和谐的关系。
So you must have a good relationship with them. And last but not the least, the performance management. So those are the four corners of the ERP system. So this one is a more detailed explanation. So supplier relationship management integrates purchasing,
采购、
receiving,
接收、
so information about vendor ratings and performance. That's a little longer. Lead times, quality, 质量, electronic funds disbursements, simplifying processes. That this one is a little bit more important.
简化流程、
Okay, and enabling analysis of these processes. Then performance management, on the other hand, is the aspect of ERP that pulls together information of costs and profits. So usually for performance, it's all about the like a 信息 or information,
信息、
productivity, quality, performance, and of course, the most important of them all, customer satisfaction, which is 客户满意.
客户满意。
Okay. So for part two, the other two, wow. Okay. Part two, you have the sales and order fulfillment. So ERP includes the ability to provide inventory and quality management. So you're not just storing the inventory, but you should also check the quality of the inventory. 库存和质量管理.
库存和质量管理。
Okay, so correct. Track returns and schedule and monitor production. So you need to monitor the production, packaging, and distribution. Packaging and distribution. I put it. So 包装和分享.
包装和分销。
Sorry. There you go. So reports can provide information on order and inventory status, delivery dates, and logistics performance. This one is needed for the sales and order fulfillment in order to know, because once the item has been delivered, that's the only time you can consider the sales. So logistics performance is important. So 物流绩效.
物流绩效。
Here is the translated version. I'll just correct this one later, the port one. This is wrong. Okay. So strategic responsibilities is a different topic of supply chain management, or SCM. So the top management has certain strategic responsibilities that have a major impact on the success not only of the supply chain management, but also of the business itself. Okay, there we go. So here are the strategic responsibilities. So here we have 8. So supply chain, strategy alignment, network configuration, information technology, products and services, capacity planning. This one is a little bit difficult. You have the constraints in your capacity, so you cannot extend your limitations right away. So you have to invest a little bit more to improve your capacity. Strategic partnerships, distribution strategy, and uncertainty and risk reduction. So it's much better than risk management because you're trying to reduce the risk of the organization is facing. So I'll just show the translations. There you go. So I hope you prefer this kind of translation. There you go. There. I'm just giving you a little bit more time to read. So strategic responsibilities. Supply chain strategy alignment. So this is the first one. Aligning supply and distribution strategies with organizational strategy and deciding on the degree. So you can fully outsource or partially outsource.
全部或部分外包，
Okay, so you can do a full or partial outsource. For the strategy alignment. Next, network configuration, determining the number and location of the suppliers. Just because you have many suppliers doesn't mean it's ideal. So for me, when I was working in the office, I usually just choose 5 for the most ideal suppliers. And then another consideration always is the location. Where is it located? So this is one of the main considerations in the business. Warehouses. Where are the warehouses? Is it accessible? So location. 位置. 位置.
位置，
位置. Warehouses and then the production or operations facilities and distribution centers. And third is the information technology. IT, integrating systems and processes. So this information technology combines all of the processes in the supply chain in order to share the information, including the forecast, the one we discussed yesterday. So that's why forecast is a very integral or important, 最重要的 part of the supply chain.
供应链的重要组成部分，
Okay. To share the information, okay. Inventory status. So how is your inventory? What happened? Tracking of the shipments and events. Tracking of shipments for the logistics and operations, and then the events for the accounting part. So here is the Chinese translation. Sorry. There you go. So 信息技术，
信息技术，
okay. That's information technology. Next, for part 2, the other 3. So we have now 6. So products and services. Oh, even I already know this one. Making decisions on new product and services selection and design. So let's say you are going to make a new product. You have to decide what product or service should you provide to your customer. Capacity planning. So especially if you're a new company, you are going to check the starting capacity that you need. And if you are already expanding, then you should be preparing for that increase in demand of your product. Assessing long-term capacity needs, including when, huh? When. Uh, 什么时候 already forgot. Wala na. Okay? When and how much will be needed? Okay? So,
何时以及需要多少？
okay? When and how much will be needed, and the degree of flexibility to incorporate the capacity. And number 3 is strategic partnerships. So like you have your strategic partnerships. I guess most of you are married or have a relationship. Huh? So it's a partnership. But for business, the partnership is the supplier and the customer. Strategic partnerships 产业合作伙伴关系。
战略合作伙伴关系。
Okay, so correct. My Chinese is improving. Okay. So there you go. So partnership choices. Huh? Who will you partner with? So choices. True size. Ay, mali.
出塞斯
Choices. Okay, so that's correct. Huh? 选择
选择
mali pronunciation. Okay, no? Partnership choices, the level of the partnership and the degree of formality between the two of your partners. So there you go. Here's the Chinese translation or Oi. Okay. And last, the other two is the distribution strategy. So deciding whether to use the centralized or decentralized distribution. So we will not discuss this anymore, the two types of distribution. And deciding whether to use the organization's own facilities and equipment. Should you use your own or just use third-party logistics providers? You can use a bit of both. Huh? For example, there are times we borrow equipment or trucking, and there are times we use our own. And uncertainty and risk reduction. So identifying the potential sources. Where should the risk happen or originate? Okay. And deciding the amount of risk that is acceptable. So this one.
可接受的风险量。
Okay. Here's the translation. Okay. That's enough. Now, another element of the supply chain is the procurement.
采购
cycle. So it involves every activity involved in obtaining. So if let's say you're going to buy something, that's already considered as procurement. A company needs to support its daily operations, including sourcing. Where do you buy the good or service from the supplier? Negotiating terms. When are you going to pay the item? Purchasing the item itself. Receiving and inspecting goods as necessary, and keeping records of all the steps. Documentation of the procurement. So here you go.
采购过程文件
Documentation, keeping records of all the steps that happen. For transparency purposes. Okay.
出于透明目的而记录
Yeah. So there you go. Okay. So procurement is the purchasing department of an organization is responsible for obtaining the materials, parts, supplies, and services needed to produce the goods and items or service. Okay. Okay, so there you go. So that is the procurement. Okay. So I'll just show you the purchasing interfaces. As you can see, you have here the purchasing and then the relationship with the suppliers. And within the purchasing, there are many interfaces such as the operations. It's similar to the last lesson, the first lesson, the operations interfaces. Remember that, the first meeting? So you have operations, legal, accounting, data processing, design, and receiving. And then when you are purchasing, every one of us will purchase items. So you have an idea of the purchasing cycle. So this one is just a larger scale purchasing cycle of the business organization. Okay. So I did the Chinese parts first, okay, the translations. So this one, you first must receive the purchasing receives the requisition. This triggers the event. You cannot purchase if there is no requisition. Usually you use the purchase requisition form or material requisition form.
采购申请窗体
So that before you can do the purchasing or canvassing. Second, the purchasing selects a supplier. The purchasing department, 采购部, selects the supplier. Then number 3, purchasing places the order with the vendor. So once purchasing department already selects, then they will place the purchase order or PO. Purchase order, actually. There you go. 采购订单. And then number 4, you have to monitor the status of the orders. Is it already being processed? When will it arrive? What time will it arrive? The condition of the order. And last but not the least, you have to receive the orders. So this is the end of the cycle. And then once you receive the order, the company or the purchasing department will start all over again.
采购部面向重新开始流程。
So I'm getting it. There you go. So that is the purchasing cycle. So we are all aware of this, except the fact that we don't use a purchase request when buying items, let's say in the supermarket or the drugstore. So for offices, you need the purchasing request and the purchasing orders for source documents.
原文档
原文档
原文档, source documents. So do you have any questions about the purchasing cycle? Or you may add something? The e-commerce, especially in China, here even in the Philippines already uses the e-commerce. Alibaba, Shopee, Lazada. So e-business, e-commerce. So internet-related activities, many of which have a direct impact on this organization's supply chains, even if those organizations are themselves users of the internet. It refers to the electronic technology
电子技术
to facilitate the business transactions. E-commerce involves the interaction of different business organizations as well as the interaction of individuals with business organizations. So the suppliers and the customers and the company, the business, are now going online or in the internet. So here's the translation. So everything has its own advantages and disadvantages. This is why I decided to make it a little simpler this time around. It is understandable. What do you think is the advantages of doing e-commerce?
电子商务的优缺点是什么？
Anybody? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Do you have any idea? Cecilia, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the e-commerce?
Yes, I'm here, so hold on.
Okay. How about the others? Cecilia. Can you give me, when you're purchasing items in the online, let's say, what are the top onlines, what are the top e-commerce in China right now?
Maybe it's that good is so fast and the advantage and convenient, quick and time saving.
Okay. Yeah, correct. It's very quick. Let's say this microphone that I'm using, like mic. I ordered last Saturday, 星期六. It arrived in my doorstep and my house the next day, and the fee was just 50 pesos. So it's not that expensive, because if I will go to the mall, to the shopping center, it will cost me a lot more. And the time that it will take for me to buy, it's more time consuming. Okay. So someone gave the answer. How about Eric? Can you give me an advantage or disadvantages of the e-commerce?
电子商务的优缺点是什么？
Okay. Eric?
Teacher, I'm Eric.
Hey, hello.
Hello. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of the e-commerce? You're going to buy, let's say, an item online.
老师说什么呀？
没听懂。
对不起，对不起。
电子商务的优缺点。
优缺点是什么？
E-commerce is very convenient.
Yes, yeah, 对对 very convenient. Yes. You can buy anytime. Correct, correct. 谢谢 Eric. That's a great answer. That's just the magic word that I heard. Convenient. It's already good. You can buy anytime. 方便.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yes.
any other?
A global e-commerce can be global market.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, that's another great answer. Let's say I want to buy items that are not available here in the Philippines. I had to order in China, buy items, my imported items. So correct, David, Eric. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
购买进口商品. Just
购买进口商品。
yeah. So I can buy items that are not available here. Let's say only America, 美国, 还是英国, 还是印度, 还是中国. Those are the countries that only have that item. Then I can order via internet and ship straight to my house. There you go. So those are great examples that given by Cecilia and Eric. The advantages and disadvantages. So we are all aware. I'm just going to show you all the advantages and disadvantages. So for the business, on the business side, you can handle multiple purchases. In the past, in the grocery or in the store, there's only 3 people who can entertain you. So they can only entertain limited number of customers. In the past, just 客户使量有限. But now, everyone who orders, let's say we order at the same time for a specific item, we can all send our orders right away to that e-commerce site. Automation minimizes human error. So human error. Okay, so
最大限度的减少人为错误。L.
Okay, and then cheaper. Someone said cheaper. You do not have to spend a lot of money in 营销 or marketing, and lower cost of store maintenance. Here in the Philippines, in the past, Philippines 从前有很多 shopping mall. Shopping mall is the购物中心. But now people are buying more and more in the e-commerce and the online. And you can retarget some of the customers, retail. So I can buy an item. Let's say I live in Shanghai. I can buy on a website wherein the store is located, let's say in Beijing or Tianjin, even though I live in Shanghai, for example, only. And then you can personalize the shopping experience. You just search for the item. You can target your customer and detail product information. You can see the specifications of the item. Item specifications. Okay. So 项目规格. Okay.
项目规格。
规格. You can see the size, the dimension, the expiration date, and many more. But there are also disadvantages. You have to register the item. Every item should be input. Taxation, no? Taxes,
税、
trade. No? Some items are a little hard to purchase online. I think for me, one of the disadvantages is waiting for the product to be delivered. Here in the Philippines, or Philippine situation, you cannot choose what time the item will be delivered. How about in China? Can you select what time the item will be delivered when you do e-commerce? Okay. Can you select the delivery time?
您可以选择交货时间吗？
The 时间? I don't think so. No? It's not like in Europe, you can wait for the time. You can, let's say you want the item to arrive at 4 o'clock, 4点. It will arrive in your door, in your house at 4点, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Uncertainty about the product quality, it might look good on the website, but in reality, it's not good quality. Or you're not aware of the problems in the product. Technical difficulties, security issues, and higher cost of portals. Portals, which means the maintenance of the website. So they will add that cost to you, to the customer. So here is the translation. It's a little slow, but that's all right. You can 中心定位客户。没有第 blah blah 时间有没有？Okay. Personalize the shopping experience. It's up to you. Okay. Then compulsory registration. That's a translation. Complex taxation guidelines. Some items are hard to purchase. Yeah, there are times you cannot necessarily buy some items easily. Waiting for product to be delivered. Uncertainty about the product quality. Technical difficulties. Security issues. And higher costs of portals. So just message me if there is a slight mistake with the translation. I can recheck them later. So choosing a supplier. This is another problem for supply chain management, or SCM. There are many suppliers in the market. So you need to be careful on selecting your suppliers.
选择供应商，
Okay. So these are the considerations in choosing a supplier. Quality and quality assurance, flexibility, location, of course. This is one of the important parts. The supplier might be good or excellent, but it's too far away. That's another problem. Price, of course. 价格.
价格，
Okay. Product or service change. If you're going to order to the supplier and then you decide to revise or change your product, revise or change your order. Okay.
修改或更改您的购买项目，
So there might be changes in your items or purchase. That's another criteria. Reputation and the financial capability of the supplier. Is your supplier well known, or is your supplier not known or infamous? That's another consideration. 著名、炒作。
臭名 招注
Lead times and on-time delivery. Does your supplier deliver on time? Because in supply chain, the chain must not be cut or must not end. It's continuous. So there might be issues with your supply. The delivery issues. Okay. So 交付问题. That is the delivery issues. And last but not the least, the uncertainty and risk reduction. So there you go. Keisha? 危机. Different explanation there. Price. Okay. Okay. So supplier management. We already mentioned a while ago that you must have a good relationship with your suppliers. So order fulfillment. So order fulfillment, the process involved in responding to customer orders. So let's say your customer orders hanpa. How will you, what is the process in order to serve that hanpa to the customer if you own, let's say, a McDonald's? So there are many ways. First is the engineer to order. So products are designed and built according to the customer specifications. I'm not sure if I have the translation here. The make to order or 定做, a standard product design is used, but production of the final product is linked to the final customer specification. So still, as you notice, the customer is always right. So if you made these items, if you fulfill the order, then the customer is satisfied. Customer satisfaction. Third is assemble to order. With this approach, products are assembled to customer specification from a stock of standard and modular components. Usually, it's one of the examples I know for assemble to order is the computer, Tian now. If you want it to be very advanced in specification, then you can do so. You can order a very high-end computer and make to stock. So remember the forecast last meeting? Production is based on a forecast and products are sold to customers from finished goods stock. And a good example of that is the supermarket and department store.
超市和百货公司
There you go. Engineer to order is usually in the construction industry, as per specification. And make to order, they only make the item when you need it. So like car parts, airplane parts. So those are the 4 types of items to be fulfilled or orders to be fulfilled. I just have to put the translation later. I will give you the translation for this one. And logistics. So you already have the item, then you should be delivering this one. So logistics refers to the movement of materials from service, cash, and information in a supply chain. Movement is the key word. How are you going to transport these items? 运动.
运动
Sounds like exercise. 运动. And materials include all of the physical items used in the production process, in addition to raw materials and work in process. There are support items such as fuel. So even the fuel or 车油, fuel, okay, it's a different term for Mandarin. 燃料, in Hokkien, we call it a chai, or oil of the car. Okay. Fuel, equipment, parts, tools, lubricants, office supplies, and many more. Just to be able to move the item from one point A to point B. Transportation. Of goods and services. Okay. 购荷服务运输
货物和服务运输
Okay, so that is logistics and includes movement within a facility, from one place to another within the facility. Movement of items within a facility. Okay, so there you go.
是室内物品的移动，
Incoming and outgoing shipments of goods and services. So outgoing shipments. So that's another part of logistics. If you are going to release or accept, receive items.
进货和出货，
And information flow throughout the supply chain. So information flow is also a form of communication on the updates in the supply chain of the company or organization. We're about to finish, okay? So for our operation strategy, if you will notice our topic at the last part of every topic is the operation strategy or Yuning Chanrue is the SCORE. SCOR, Supply Chain Operations Reference. Let's see the Mandarin translation. Supply Chain Operations Reference. Okay, so if I can read it. 供应愿运营参考 Okay.
供应链运营参考，
Okay, so that is, I'm just going to give you the translation later. I had time constraint. So you can check the website. I'm not sure if it's accessible in China or Shanghai. Now, it provides steps that can be used to create an effective supply chain. So again, it's a step, but not really a step, more of a cycle. So again, it always starts with a plan. This one is, if you can use these, I look you'll see. If you can use the check if you can use the SCORE, SCOR in your case study. So plan. So you develop a strategy for managing all the resources that go into meeting expected customer demand for product. Meeting expected. There's a translation later, but I'll just customer demand for a product or service. or service. Okay.
满足客户对产品或服务的预期需求。
And what are the set of metrics needed in order to monitor the supply chain? Second is the source. So where will you get the suppliers? Which suppliers are you going to use? Select suppliers that will provide the goods and services needed to create the products or support services. Also, develop a system for delivery, receiving, and verifying shipments or or services to make it easy for you to monitor. Third is to make. Design the processes necessary for providing services or producing, testing, and packaging goods. Monitor quality, service levels of or production output and worker productivity. And last is deliver. Establish systems for coordinating receipts of shipment from vendors. And last is the managed returns. Create a responsive and flexible network for receiving. So let's say there are defective and excess products. We're about to finish actually. Okay.
有缺陷和多余的产品。
So if there are complaints with your product, then you can just receive them. So how will you do this managed returns? Okay. Here is the definition. Okay. Okay. So that is the SCOR, SCOR, Supply Chain Operations Reference. And I think this is the last slide. As always, we end with the operations strategy. So it's almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours. So effective supply chains are critical to the success of business organizations. So this is one of the critical success factors. Development of supply chains should be accorded strategic importance. Next, achieving an effective supply chain requires integration of all aspects of the chain. So that's why this topic is very long, because there are many components. Okay.
供应链有许多组成部分。
So there are many components. So that's why it's a little long lesson today, tonight. And last is that supplier relationships are a critical component of supply chain management. You cannot manage if you have bad relationships with your suppliers. So your supplier is your friend. The supplier is your friend. Okay. 光明上是你的朋友. So the supplier will help you, not destroy you. And with that, end of lesson. I hope For the case study, the one who's assigned with the supply chain will be able to submit their items. Okay. Oh, we're complete now. Okay. Just check the email, the one I sent for the additional question about the PQM. Remember, there are two groups. There are two groups. One that will be reporting the company. So please include the TQM. Okay, can we turn on the cameras? Okay. Okay, so we're just going to wait. On Monday, it will be a shorter class. Sorry. I just decided to finish. Okay, so we're just waiting for Fly and David for the picture. I think they're busy. Okay. Okay. David, can you can still make it if you're not busy? Okay, so let's see. He's not around. San. Okay. So Monday, our lesson will just be around 1 hour, or the usual 1 hour 30 minutes. Today is just a very long topic, but at least we finish it. And then for the final lesson on Tuesday, I will discuss a short topic, and then you will present the companies. Wait lang. Okay. On Tuesday, you will present your companies. Okay.
星期二，您将展示您的公司。
Okay. Now the companies that you are going to report. Okay. So, there you go. The fly is here. Okay. Okay. Ay, nawala. San, Sheshe. We meet on Monday again.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Sorry for the time
Bye.
extension. Thank you, Sheshe.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Check your email.